This is our 49th season at the Playhouse Theatre Company, and it's been a tough 49 years, and it's also been an amazing 49 years. We called an emergency board meeting, and the motion, I outlined the situation to everyone. Basically, we can't continue operations with the amount of debt that we have, and so last night at 4 o'clock, we put forward a motion, sorry, a breakup, to begin to wind down operations effective tomorrow at the end of the Hunchback. And so tomorrow will be officially our last performance as the Vancouver Playhouse Theatre Company.
The Playhouse, as most of you know, is part of a very large family that stretches from coast to coast and reaches far back into our history. We're part of that, we're one of those organizations, part of that great professional theater experiment. That began for most just probably less than 60 years ago as organizations, and we were one of the first. We've been here for nearly half a century, and we've been able to do such great things as recently things like Where the Blood Mixes, the tour that went across the country.
When I heard about the closure of the Playhouse, I was in shock. I think all of us were. I was filled with, the immense loss of all the plays that they were planning, all the plays that I'd seen over the years, plays like The Overcoat that revolutionized my idea of what theater was, what acting was, what storytelling was. Right back to George Riga's Ecstasy of Rita Joe, all the plays that have contributed towards building the Canadian canon, the Vancouver Playhouse School that so many fine actors. How could we let it go? 50 years of our history. How can we not have a theater in the heart of our city? I think what is so frightening is that, and why I think this story has reverberated across our country is that it isn't an isolated incident. The Playhouse didn't die because it was financially irresponsible or it was artistically unsound. Not at all. It died because of neglect. Because Canadians don't value their own story. We need to learn what we've learned about our food source, which is you can't just pack something in a crate from another country, stick it in a can and fly it in and expect it to have nutrient value. You can't eat out of a can and be healthy, Sure, I like to have a kiwi in the middle of December sometimes. Yeah, it's interesting, okay? But I need to grow my own garden. That makes sense? Like only I know my story. Only we know the story of our grandparents. Only we know the particular color of our skies and the depths of our waters and the shape of our hills. I know what my neighbors are up to, Only we can truly comfort each other when we're mourning. Only we can laugh at ourselves. The Canadian story is an important one. Where am I going to put my stories? I had one in particular I was working with the Playhouse. It was just a baby story. I had started writing it in Winnipeg, actually, while I was doing Brief Encounter at the Manitoba Theatre Centre. And Max said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm writing a play." Anyway, they had followed along a couple of drafts and showed interest. And I woke up in the morning and I thought, well, where am I going to put this story now? I got to put it somewhere. I got to do something. I wrote all my government officials. I've been Facebooking up a storm. I've been asking people, what are we going to do? How do we protest? And so I've got to do something today. So I went down to the drugstore and I bought some chalk. And I'd worked it out mathematically that if I fit each word about 6 inches long, I could get my play written on the sidewalk all the way from the Playhouse to City Hall, and literally right to City Hall. I invited some other writers, but it was last minute notice and a crappy day. So I was just there by myself, crazy lady with a script and my glasses and my chalk writing up a storm. And somebody called the cops on me right away and they said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "The Playhouse is closed. I don't know where to put my story, so I'm going to put it on the street." And they nodded and they read a little bit, and one of them squatted down and said, "That's beautiful. I hope you have enough chalk." Anyway, after an hour, other artists started popping in. And by the end, 8 hours later, we had a nice little crowd of people. And it had hit national news. And most importantly, though, as we chalked our way across the city, people stopped and asked us what we were doing, and they were reading the script, and some of them, especially the younger kids, would go all the way back to the Playhouse and start at the beginning and read it and ask me how it ended. I hope that we do save the Playhouse. I hope that we do learn to value and fight for the value of our Canadian stories. And I suppose until then, I'm going to put my stories somewhere, on the street or otherwise. Thanks for asking.